filming a TikTok together in the car, and we're a little nervous about it. One thing that we're really bad at is actually working together, which is funny because I said that right before we went to film this.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I disagree.
We don't even agree on
we
that.
don't work together.
So now you have some insights into what we're really like.
Why are we here?
Yeah, so we started telling our story on TikTok because I feel like in our struggles we found like a lot of language to explain our story, and I know that this language would have been so helpful 10 years ago. Not that it could necessarily even save marriages, but it might save a little bit of headache as you work toward things and even work to separate things. I also feel like our marriage has been so hard, and sometimes the hardness is in thinking that you're alone.
Yeah.
Or that this is something that you're just going through. And for me, storytelling is always a way to feel less alone.
I didn't want to think that we were having a hard time. I certainly didn't want to think that other people knowing they were having a hard time would be helpful to somebody. I was like, I don't know. In our dynamic, I made it uncomfortable for you to tell me true things, I think.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be uncomfortable. I didn't want to think that things were hard. I wanted things to be better. And how could they be better if we're talking about the things that aren't working? And that backfired. From
the very beginning of our hardship, I was like, I would really like to start talking about this because we're going to need to address it if it's going to get better.
A lot of bad information led to a lot of pain. What does good information do? I think you asked me sometimes, would this have helped me in a younger version? And I don't know the honest answer to that. I was kind of an idiot a lot of times. So I think that any exposure to this information would have been helpful in planting seeds. I don't know that I would have received it right away. But there was this thing I would do a lot, which is like if you just told me, it was really just putting the burden back on you, that if you had just said the magic phrase in the magic order, I would have magically been better. And that's not fair. But I do think that some of these things we found language for through adversity could have helped.
I think we're having, obviously a collective moment right now in specifically heterosexual relationships and like a reckoning. We kind of started our reckoning about 10 years ago. It's a really interesting time to be alive in this dialogue as people honestly learn for the very first time how to co-create lives. The way heterosexual relationships were created in patriarchy didn't really allow for full co-creation. And that's why it feels hard right now, is because it's really the first time people are doing that. And I think the world will be better when we can do it well.
And she's pretty smart. I mean, she was right the whole time.
You find that clip where I was on a game show 4 years ago and I won a lot of money, and they're like, what are you gonna do with the money? I was like, I think we want to start a podcast about marriage. This was like at least 4 years ago already.
Yeah.
We weren't ready to start then.
I said the podcast should be called what?
Tales of a Crumbling Marriage.
And I said, how can we be in a podcast called Tales of a Crumbling Marriage if our marriage isn't crumbling?
I was like...
This is the podcast idea lived out just a few years
later.
late.